related to the budget. 3% state worker pay raise is what he is touting right now. Joining us to weigh in on all of this is State Democratic Party Chair and Kanawha County Delegate Mike Pushkin. Thank you for being here. We're glad you're here.
I'm glad I could be here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right. 3% state worker pay raise. Was that enough?
No, that just offsets their PEIA increases.
Okay. What was the biggest win you think this session?
The biggest win, I would say, and I'll give credit to Delegate Kayla Young for all the years that she's put in it. Finally, we did pass some meaningful legislation to provide affordable and accessible child care. Mm-hmm. There was 3 bills rolled into one. There was some, it was at the last hour, I believe, when it passed in the Senate. And that was great. And I'll give credit to Delegate Young, mainly for spearheading that for years.
When will that begin? When will people be able to start taking advantage of that?
Well, some of it's extending what's already going on, where the federal government was going to roll back the reimbursement, calculation back to based on attendance rather than enrollment. This would offset that because the federal government is going to do that, but this would save that alone was very important. That's going to save a lot of child care agencies so people have options so they can go to work. Okay. But there was a whole lot. There were 3 bills rolled into one. We weren't sure if we were going to get it done. They did get it done, but I'll go ahead and say a lot of, there were some good things that happened. Mm-hmm. All of that was overshadowed by the ugliness that happened literally in the 11th hour. The last hour on the last day in the House of Delegates, and I think that's what you were talking about before I came on, when many of the Republicans were filibustering Rayleigh's law, a law that would protect children who are in harm's way. It's a very narrowly tailored bill. Okay, that's if a child, if abuse of a child was reported by a teacher or a mandatory reporter at a public school, so the child would be in public school already, and their teacher or the mandatory reporter said, "Hey, this kid might be in trouble," it would simply place a 10-day hold on the family removing that child from school to hide the child from the reporter. So, to me, that's a no-brainer. Why would anybody be against that? And to watch Republicans filibuster that bill, it was the most disgusting thing I have seen in my entire tenure at the legislature. And I've seen some pretty bad things, but that was the most disgusting thing. There's absolutely no excuse for it. I was really saddened to see so many of my colleagues trying to make excuses for it on social media over the past few days and posting roll calls that made absolutely no difference. The real roll call was whether or not to bring it up for consideration.
Delegate Adam Burkhammer says that it is, he's for protecting children, but he says that's not a good law. What could be better?
It is a good law. It was co-written by an assistant prosecutor. It was signed off on by a judge. Will it solve every problem? No. But what good is there in saying if a report of abuse from the school goes to CPS that the family can't wait 10 days until we see if the child is safe or not? Because right now there's a loophole in the law. And unfortunately, this isn't about homeschoolers. This is about child abusers that found this loophole in the law and are using homeschool. They're not really homeschoolers. They're fake homeschoolers. And they're using the homeschool laws, which are incredibly lax in West Virginia. They're using those laws to hide abuse. So, yeah, it's a very good law. It passed the House. I believe he'd voted for it in the past. So I think Delegate Burkhammer is being incredibly disingenuous, and it was his amendment that they put on the bill at the last minute that killed the bill. So he killed the bill. So I think he has a lot of explaining to do. But now this is another part that's really troubling. In filibustering this bill, there was a lot of really critical pieces of legislation that they killed in that last hour because they were so dead set on protecting child abusers that they killed a bill that would have increased the exemption for the homestead tax exemption to give homeowners in West Virginia much needed relief. They killed a bill that would have given some producers of metallurgical coal. Now we're hearing of mine after mine closing. Mm-hmm. A lot of us feel due to Trump tariffs, but however you want to blame it on, we're seeing mines close, especially in the area of metallurgical coal. There was a bill to give some severance tax breaks to producers of metallurgical coal. That bill died because they wanted to slow roll Rayleigh's law to protect child abusers. There was also a bill to increase funding for special needs students in our public schools. We did absolutely nothing for public schools this year. There was all this talk about recalculating the school aid formula to increase the baseline for public schools. What it was finally whittled down to was simply increasing funding for special needs students, which is great. Ask any county officials. That is greatly needed. And they killed that because they wanted to filibuster Rayleigh's law to protect child abusers. So, yeah, I'm very upset about how the last hour of session went down, and that overshadows everything.
You guys, the State Democratic Party moments ago just released a statement, and your final quote is, "Instead of protecting children, Republican leadership chose to protect child abusers." It's pretty strong words, Delegate.
Well, it's the truth. I'll stand by it.
What's other than the what you just mentioned, what were some of the other things throughout the session that didn't die on the last day, but some other things you would like to have seen done?
What I would have liked to have seen. Oh, first of all, we did nothing for public education. I just mentioned that. While they were able to secure nearly $300 million for vouchers. I see the governor's on TV patting himself on the back about that right now. About funding the voucher program, but doing absolutely nothing.
You're talking about Hope Scholarship?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. I call it a voucher. Scholarships are awarded by merit. This is a voucher. Let's call it what it is. So $300 million out of public education and into a voucher program. We didn't do nearly enough to address the water crisis in many parts of the state. We have citizens of this state who have not had access to clean drinking water for years, and we did very little to address that issue. So I think it was mainly what was left undone. And like I said, it's all going to be overshadowed by what happened, after 11 p.m. On the House floor when you saw Republicans slow rolling their own bills in an effort to protect child abusers.
You represent Kanawha County. There is a charter school that's going to open up in a former public, obviously charter schools are along the same vein of a public school, but there is a charter school that's going to open up inside the former Marmet Elementary School. What are your thoughts on that as we look at this situation where so many community schools continue to close?
Look, I hope it benefits the children of that area. I hope that they're able to provide transportation. Many charter, I don't know if charter schools generally do that. I hope they're able to take care of students with special needs because we were unable to fund that through our regular public schools this year. So I just hope it does enough good. That's all. Look, if it's going to help kids in Eastern Kanawha, then great. And yeah, that's a good thing.
Delegate Mike Pushkin, Democratic Party Chair, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Josh Holstein when we return.